So we started out with an image that's in RGB, red, green, and blue, and we can examine its channels to see if there's anything to see here. So in the red channel I can see the legs a little bit. Green channel, see a little bit down here. Blue I'm not seeing that much. So we can look in the red channel and we can adjust the levels of this channel. Go to Image, Adjustments, Levels, and just pull in these white and black points to sort of accentuate the contrast here. Now if you got something good from here, you could just select all. So I clicked on the red channel, select all, copied, go back to my layers palette, and I can paste it in there, and there's the representation of what I've seen in the red channel, so I can save it that way if I want to. However, I'm going to undo that because there are other things I can do first. So I'm seeing the figure here a little bit now, so I'm back in full RGB mode. Let me just get my channels palette open again. So when I click on a channel, it just shows me that channel. When I click on RGB, I see the whole thing. So now back in the layers palette here, I'm going to do a chroma shift, so going into hue and saturation. So this is an effect that's being applied to the layers below it. So I'm going to hypersaturate this. And I can adjust the lightness and see if that helps. I'm just going to leave that alone. And then I'm going to shift the chroma to see if I can get a better view. So we're trying to enhance chroma contrast here by remapping the colors. So something like that is not bad. We're starting to see the figure come out here. So we can go and look in the channels again. Oh, we have to click on this background layer first. So we're seeing something in the green and blue channels. I'm going to go back in here, or sorry, the green and red channel. And open up the Properties tab here to continue to adjust this. So now what I do is shift to what I'm doing, sort of a warm blue, a warm and cool color contrast. I'm starting to see something in the blue channel. So if this is the best way to show your image, then you can save that. I'm seeing something here in the blue channel that's pretty good, and the green channel, and the red channel here. So now if I want to save these, I can collapse these two images. So my two layers, I've got the adjustment layer and the background layer. I just select them both and hit Command E. Now I've collapsed them into that form. Now if I want to, I can take the channel that shows this the best. The green channel here might be okay, so I'm going to select all, Command A, Command C to copy, then go back into the layers palette, create a new layer and paste it. I can invert it, Command I, sometimes it makes it easier to see the form. Then I can adjust the levels on this if I want to. So just go back to my Properties tab. So there are different ways to adjust levels. There's the way that I showed earlier when you go to Image Adjustments with the layer you want selected, or there's this way which is non-destructive, so you can turn it on and off by adding a layer, an adjustment layer. If I just tuck in these values here, then I can start to see the figure. So you can work on this to try and get the most clear figure that you can. I'm not going to save this because I want to reopen it again. So you have to go through each one, so save the original file, don't overwrite the original one. And this one I'm going to change to image mode LAB, and you're going to do this once with CMYK, once with LAB, and once with the original RGB. So LAB writes channels differently. There's a lightness channel or a brightness or a value channel, and then there's the kind of blue to yellow and then the magenta to green channels. So we can go in here and see if we can make any adjustments. I can see the figure here pretty well in the B channel. So if I go to Image, Adjustments, Levels, I can pull this in and I get a pretty good representation of the figure here. Now I can go do the same thing to the A channel because I can kind of see it there too. Image, Adjustments, Levels. You can see that it tells me which channel I'm working in here, the A channel. That's pretty good actually. Then we can go back here and we can see it standing out a little bit more. So the different ways you can show this or record this, you can find the channel that shows it the best. So in this case it looks like A does. I can go to Command A to select all, copy, and then in the layers palette paste it as a new layer, so we can just keep that. Now I'm going to do a hue and saturation shift here by selecting the background layer, going to hue and saturation. This is already pretty saturated, but I'm going to bump it up a little bit more and then do a hue shift. So there we can see the figure pretty well. There are different combinations of colors that will have a greater chroma contrast, like this green and pink. And this red and blue. So when I have something that I'm happy with, I can just leave that. And you can see that the channels have changed now too, because that hue and saturation layer are affecting them. So if I wanted to take out one of these channels now, I'd have to merge these two layers first to sort of freeze that into place. So I can do that. Command E, go back into the channels box. I don't think I'm going to get anything that's actually much better than this one that I have here. I can see details of the feet, the hands. I don't think I'm seeing anything much better in here. But if I were, I could copy that out. But as it is, this looks pretty good. Oops. And then you would go in and do the same thing with CMYK. So you're doing a combination of looking at the channels. So now you can see the channels look all of a sudden gray. That's because I've got this layer selected that just has this grayscale image in it. And so when I look at the channels, I'm looking at the channels for that layer. If I go down to the background layer, sorry, if I turn off the visibility of this layer, then I can look at the channels just of the visible layer here. So you have to turn these layers on and off to see the different channels. So you'd go through and do this 3 times for each image, once in RGB, once in CMYK, and once in LAB. And save out the best image you can get from each of those.